Today, very special guest, we have Mikey Herbert from Hellstorm Wargaming. Welcome, Mikey.
What's up, gamers? Thanks for having me on, dude.
Now, you, as a YouTuber, as a
hmm
miniature wargamer, as a 40K player, because that's what your
hmm
YouTube channel is focused on, I've
Pretty
noticed.
much.
You've been doing this for 5 years, about that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
According to when you joined YouTube on your YouTube
Yeah,
About page, I may have cheated and just looked at that.
yeah, good idea. I
You,
think I started like properly posting videos about 3.5 years ago. I like one or two when I first joined, and then like a year and a half, and then yeah, 3.5 in total, I think.
you have racked up over a couple million views on your videos as a whole,
hmm
and you post multiple times a week. And
hmm
you do Codex reviews, you do battle reports, and you do
Yeah,
live streams. And so you are one of these dudes who also does this full time, which is
I
awesome.
am.
So congratulations
Yeah,
on that.
thank you,
Now,
man.
would you say that you, in terms of like focusing on competitive play versus casual narrative play, which one
Mm.
are you more of?
I definitely lean into more of the competitive play, but definitely like trying to make sure that competitive play is entertaining. So I like to add a spin of comedic effect to my like battle reports and stuff like that. So we like there's me myself who does most of the editing. I have another friend called Tom who does some of the editing with me. Well, I say that he usually ends up doing most of the editing, but um, we kind of like have a unique spin and we like add memes and funny things that happen during the game. So to try and make it more unique but also more entertaining, rather than just like two guys just like banging heads together and like super gamey competitive things. So we might have like really gamey lists, but hopefully it's like enjoyable to watch at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
So
So competitive with an additive of fun play at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So okay, very cool. So Deathguard, I noticed you did a few Deathguard videos recently
hmm
as the new Deathguard have dropped. Are you a Deathguard player?
I have a Deathguard army. Yeah, I've really played them. I think I've had the army for like 2 years now, so I didn't jump on them at first because I'm more of a Space Marine player at heart.
Ah,
So like when Dark Imperium stuff came out, I was like, okay, I'll let's get the Space Marines, and then the Plague Marines will go in a draw somewhere. But like last year, and then the just like I think it was like late 2019, I started like properly collecting, and I've played them quite a few times now. Played them competitively as well, and yeah, they're really good now. Really, really good. Definitely better than what they were.
yeah, this heck of a lot better. So
Yeah.
would you say that they are too strong? Would you say they're too
I,
strong, too resilient?
yeah.
Are you getting sick of
Yeah.
them? Well, you play them, so maybe you're not getting sick. What about your opponents?
Yeah. I think overall, Death Guard are okay. They are really strong, but
Hmm.
not too strong. If you don't include Mortarion, when you like throw Mortarion into the ring, which you would do because he's Mortarion,
Uh huh.
he's mental. He's really good. But like the rest of the army functions well, and it has its like it's really good at being resilient, but it also it's really slow.
Uh huh.
But then when you have something that's like such a bullet magnet like Mortarion that you can't ignore, but when you don't ignore him, you're shooting guns and he just ignores half of them and then reduces damage and then reduces damage again. It can be quite like imposing or oppressive, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so Death Guard are fine, but when you put Mortarion in there, Death Guard are obviously really, really good.
He is nigh unkillable.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the Nightbringer can take him down, but other than
Nightwing
him,
is really good at taking him down. It's
other
like
than
really
him,
squiff because it's like one thing in one codex.
so okay, I had a recent game where it was Blood Angels. It was classic Blood
Mhm.
Angels. It wasn't even Primaris. It was classic Blood Angels,
Nice.
but Sanguinary Guard. Yeah, I want to
Mhm.
say Sanguinary Guard, and then I had some Death Company in there, and of course Salt Marines
Sure.
and some Terminators with Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, and a Librarian Dreadnought, and all of
Okay.
this stuff shot and charged Mortarion and
Okay.
did not take him down.
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
man, that was so demoralizing. Ah,
Which contagion ability was he using at the time? So which like of the extra warlord traits of the four that Mortarion has
of
was
the
he using? Was he using
four
the
that.
deny the rerolls?
Okay,
Or
there
was it
was. He was -1 a hit. I remember that.
yeah.
He had his own disgustingly resilient.
Yeah. His warlord. That's one of his warlord
That's
traits.
one of his warlord traits. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I can remember from that scarring experience.
Because he has two 9-inch range abilities. He has the Contagion, which is like a 9-inch aura of -1 toughness. But then at the start of the game, he chooses one of the warlord traits from the plague companies, which is also 9-inch range naturally.
Mm-hmm.
The two go-tos are usually the droning, which is like half movement, or it's I can't remember what it's called now, but it's basically you can't re-roll hits or wounds whilst within 9 inches of him.
That's okay. That sounds very familiar. I think that was a thing actually,
which is really clutch against Blood Angels because they kind of rely on re-rolls, and also Blood Angels rely on damage too, because like Power Fists and Carmine Swords, you know, they're all damage too, which are really really good unless you're playing Deathguard.
That was all neutered, all at the same time. Oh man. Yeah. So
I've also had that matchup because I've got Blood Angels on me as well, and like, it just doesn't go well.
Were you Blood Angels when you were fighting against it, or were you Deathguard?
Yeah, I've played as Deathguard, but I've also played against Deathguard.
Gotcha.
And I was as Blood Angels. Yeah,
okay.
It was just
no,
it just didn't happen.
No,
I think Death Company are the only thing that can do it.
Yeah, with the insane amount of attacks.
Hammers.
Yeah, that's right. How many points is that? It's probably the same amount of points as Mortarion.
If not more.
If not more, yeah. And even still, it's a sheer number of attacks, really, that you're going for there, and because it's already -1 damage. So just crazy, man.
Yeah.
So
he's got 3 warlord traits naturally, because he's got Living Plague, which is you can't use aura abilities. He's got Revolting and Resilient, which is the 5+ feel no pain essentially. I can't remember the other one now. It's obviously really good. He's got a third one. But then the fact that he chooses one before the game starts is just obnoxious, in my opinion. And that's been my opinion about him ever since he came out.
I mean, why does he need more?
He's obviously got Arch Contaminator, which is the final one, which is the re-rolling with plague weapons. That one's fine. That's a great trait.
I mean, that's great, right? Yeah. Like, buff yourself. Don't take away my abilities. Buff yourself all day long.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that you can just choose one, and then it becomes 9 inches, which you can extend to 12 inches with the psychic power. It's just obnoxious. So, but it's so fun to play with. It's just obnoxious to play against.
This is true. You know, I think that in a game where you know that he is being brought, then that's kind of a different story, and then you can kind of semi-prepare for it, or at least have that in your mind that you're gonna have to deal with him or not deal with him. But you expect him to be there, and you know that he's going to be what he is.
Yeah, exactly.
When I fought it for the first time, this new Codex, I didn't know I was going to be fighting him. I had no idea what his new abilities were.
Oh no!
And I was just like, all right, let's do it. Let's Khorne it up and let's charge everything at him. Oh man, do I ever regret this?
That's the thing. I think because I said like I'm a competitive player at heart, so I run tournaments myself, and I go to tournaments a lot, and I cover events and stuff like that. And like the thing is, like obviously, like in a tournament setting, when you know, like pandemic permitting or whatever, you know, when tournaments are running, like you have a meta. And what Deathguard do is because everything was leaning towards like 2 damage because Space Marines all got an extra wound, you know, and like so everyone's like, okay, we need to rack up 2 damage stuff. And Deathguard just throw that out the window and completely screw it for you. And the thing is you can deal with Mortarion, as you say, if you know he's coming. But if you don't know he's coming and you bring like an all-comers list, you just had it used most of the time. Which makes him really interesting, makes the army really interesting.
So Jake Madden says this: the power spike is ridiculous in both Dark Angels and Deathguard. It's a good time to beat Green Marines. What are your thoughts on his comment?
It is a good time to be green and bone, yeah, because they are both green and bone, to be fair. So
that's fair. Yeah,
you got Deathwing for sure.
I mean, that's an accurate statement, right?
Yeah. Great time until an FAQ comes out, I guess. We will see.
He's too strong. Oh, he can only take 3 warlord traits, not 4. Jeez. Yeah. You know, it's okay. And here's the thing. I see all this Deathguard love, which I'm okay with because being a Chaos player at heart, any love given towards Chaos is a good thing. But I can't help but feel a little bit of longing for more love towards World Eaters. And if they had equivalent love with warlord traits and characters and new units and new codex, a codex in general, not just a new codex, like a codex, that would be absolutely awesome. Here's the crazy part, man. Like, we got a Lord of Skulls, right? We have a Blood Slaughterer. We have all these, like, we have the starting of our own units and things that could be amalgamized into a codex? Why doesn't it happen?
I was really surprised that the Deathguard Codex came out as it was, because I was expecting like Chaos Space Marines to get a similar treatment to Space Marines with like a codex and then supplements to go with it. And I'm really surprised that they didn't go that direction, because there's so many units that like cross over in all the factions. But then they decided to release Deathguard, which kind of like neutered that theory.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I think that would have been really cool if you had like a World Eater supplement with the Chaos Space Marine Codex.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
That could have been so easily done, right?
Thousand Suns.
Right.
Because and everyone calls back to Demon King, and that was such a fantastic book when it was out in 7th edition.
My favorite book of all time. That's what that was.
It's a great book, and they could have just done that.
Yeah.
But they still could, to be fair. But
they
I don't
still
know.
can
should be
do
interesting.
it. Like, why aren't they?
Yeah.
What would be your number one guess? Why aren't they doing that?
I don't know. I guess they don't like money.
They don't like Khorne's money.
Like Khorne's money in particular, yeah.
Oh.
Everyone else's money.
That'd be so good. I can't even... You know what I would do? I would probably dress my car up like a Lord of Skulls and drive through the city.
That would be pretty... How many Waller traits would he have?
8.
Yeah, it makes sense.
5 plus D3. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, man. It'd be so much awesomeness that would happen. We need new Khorne characters, too. We just need, like, more stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a Deathguard discussion, right? Not a World Eaters discussion. Yeah. What was that? What were you gonna
Chaos
say?
in general. I was going to say they could have just like released a supplement, new Khorne Berserkers with like maybe a cool character to go with it, and they would have sold buckets, I reckon. Because the World Eaters, the stratagems like that they have are actually really good, and just with like a few more, with like some, obviously they already have 6 Waller traits, so they could probably reprint most of the stuff they've already got, and then just add a little bit more flavor. Like again, like the Demon King Talia that they used to have, like kill 8 things, summon a Bloodthirster or something, you know, or summon something not quite as probably something ridiculous, because that's what Games Workshop do these days. They could have just like brought in the Tally again, reprint everything they've already got, and then be like, cool, here's another codex. Also, here's some models that we've been sat on for the past 5 years, probably.
Yes, yeah. Or new Khorne models. Heck, new Terminator version. New Khorne Terminators. Yeah. Right? Like some the Red Butchers. Yeah, exactly, right. It's so amazing. Yeah. So amazing. And then obviously 2 wounds apiece. That would be a thing for Berserkers. And Marines while we're at it, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And then, so how in like with Nurgle, they got the Poxwalkers, right? So it'd be cool if in Khorne, there's some sort of version of that. And I wonder what that would look like.
Like angry cultists.
Angry cultists.
Yeah, but angrier than normal cultists. I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess that's pretty much all you've got into, really, because it's like Poxwalkers are just cultists that are just neglified, and then everyone else just relies on cultists.
Yes.
But you just have to like really angry cultists that like always charge or something like that.
Yes, I like it. Yeah, they
which makes sense.
Advance and charge. Yeah. That's a good. Okay. So, Ginger Steve says this. Dave, have you seen the new Warhammer Total War 3 trailer? I know you love the chaos stuff, but have you noticed Mikey looks like the advisor in the tent?
Shout out to Ginger Steve. He's a good dude.
I have not seen the trailer yet. I will watch it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you'll like it.
It dropped like how many hours ago? Like
it must be 2 hours, if that.
Yeah, like stupid recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's good.
Okay, so if you were to build Deathguard army, not including Mortarion, like he's his own thing. He's his own army. So okay, if you build from scratch, how would you build it?
Okay. So like I think the core of the army relies on, you could either go really silly or like a more well-rounded, but I think quite fun list to play, because really silly is kind of taking as many Death Shroud as you can, because they're also really, really good because they are so resilient. And the fact that with the Plague Reapers or the Man Reapers, they have like 2 versions of attacks, because the biggest issue with them before the Codex was that if you swamp them with something like Cultists or like Orc Boys or something, they didn't die, but also they couldn't get out of it because they get like 2 or 3 attacks each. But now they can, I think it's like double attacks they can do with the sweeping attack.
So 2 versions.
Yeah, so it's like Mortarion can do like a sweeping attack. They have something very similar, just not quite as big.
Yeah.
So you can that's like one way you could do it, but I kind of like running like I don't have one yet, but I'd like to run like a Lord of Virulence with a Plaguecaster as like my two HQs because I think the Lord of Virulence has got some real weight to his rules. I think he's really good. When the preview came out, a lot of people were like really saying that it wasn't worth anything, but like when these points came out and it was like a Lord of Contagion but better, I figured it was like pretty good. So then you've got to have a Plaguecaster because you can't have anything else in the Deathguard credits, which is also really weird. Like the fact that they have the caveat of you can only have one Lord and then you can only have one Demon Prince in each attachment, but a Demon Prince is both a Demon Prince and a Lord at the same time, which is really interesting.
Yes,
and
yeah, I found that interesting too.
Yeah,
interesting.
Really
Why?
weird.
What was the thought behind that change?
Yeah, it makes sense that change came in, but like it means you can only have one Demon Prince and then you have to take a Sorcerer. Or a Lord and a Sorcerer. You can't take a Lord and a Demon Prince, which to me doesn't sound too bad.
True.
And the fact that they got rid of the base Sorcerer, so now you can only take a Plaguecaster or a Sorcerer in Terminator armor. You can't just take a normal Sorcerer.
Interesting.
Which I thought was weird, but there you go.
That is weird.
I think a lot of people probably think that's a bit weird as well.
I wonder if like it's because like the Plaguecaster is kind of like that is the base Sorcerer, but the Nurgle equivalent. So I wonder if that's to encourage the purchase of that model more so.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it wasn't on the shelf when the book came out, but now you can buy it in like I think it's called like I can't remember what it's called. But it's like 3 of the characters from Dark Imperium in a box. But yeah, so it's quite strange. I guess the Malignant Plaguecaster isn't too expensive, which is the nice thing. But then I'd run like 3 units of Plague Marines, probably units of 10, well, which isn't the fluffy number, obviously, but the fact that you can get like more weapons in there is always better. Maybe in Rhinos if you really want to. Rhinos are decent, but I'd probably go like focus more on the supporting characters because you've got like the Blightbringer, which obviously gives you a +1 move. You've got the Foul Blightspawn, which can make people count and fight last, which is the Plague Spewer guy with the cloud of flies or whatever they want to call it. And the Biologus, which is the guy with all the grenades and stuff. He's really good. He's really good with Possessed. So the Deathguard Possessed, I think, are really good. I've got a unit of 10. I think I'd like to run a unit at least with 20 in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they get like 4 attacks each, and they have plague weapons and an invulnerable save, which is obviously really good. And the Biologus, you choose them, which is actually a really interesting ability because it's not an aura, it's like a trigger ability, but you can choose it during the charge phase rather than the fight phase. And then any unit that fights with that ability does mortal wounds on a 6 to wound in addition to any other damage.
Cool. Yeah.
So you have like a unit of 10 possessed doing 40 attacks, and then 6s do mortal wounds as well.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good. It's not quite as obnoxious as the possessed used to be in like Las Vegas and Open when they were just doing the rounds and they had like 19 buffs on them and then they were just like murdered anything. But it's still really good, and it's not that much of a point sink either because they're kind of very independent. Yeah. And then you'd like look at taking, as we mentioned, the Warlord trait that doesn't let you re-roll hits or wounds, and take that on like your Lord of Virulence, because there's a stratagem for 2 CP where you can choose another unit, you basically choose one guy who's got a contagion ability and another unit that doesn't have the same contagion abilities, and they both have the same one. So what you can have is your possessed charge in and do all these attacks with all these mortal wounds, and then they don't allow your opponent to re-roll hits or wounds back, which is actually really, really strong.
Yes, that is really, really strong.
Yeah,
especially if they have a unit that depends on that.
Yeah, you essentially put your Warlord trait essentially onto the possessed, and then you also count the range as being 1 turn higher, so at least 3 inches, which is actually quite cool, I think. So, and that it like sounds a bit nasty, but that isn't like too over the top. I don't think it's strong, but it's not ridiculous.
It's not Mortarion level ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to find out what that stratagem now, but I think it's called like Flash Outbreak or something like that.
So here's an interesting question from Jake Madden. He says, I'll admit to being curious. What would you give to Magnus to bring him up to Mortarion's power level while keeping them mechanically distinct?
Ooh. I've heard taking 4 Warlord traits is really strong. it's going to be interesting because I can see Thousand Suns getting, because obviously Deathguard have like the contagion ability, which is their, if they don't soup with anyone, they get -1 toughness aura. Thousand Suns are obviously going to get something similar because every codex, including Deathguard, has that like stipulation. Like even Necrons who can't like ally with anyone, their stipulation is they only get the codes, so the directives each turn if you are pure Necrons. So I can see Thousand Suns getting something very similar. I'm just not 100% sure what that might be. I imagine it'll probably be like a buff to casting psychic powers, like maybe like naturally re-rolling ones or naturally getting +1 to cast or something like that. But yeah, Magnus needs either something similar to Mortarion in terms of resilience, like -1 damage, or a natural 5-up feel no pain or 5-up ignore damage roll. Or he needs something similar to Gazkul, where it's like he can only take so many wounds a turn. And I think that's probably the best way to like make him on the same level, but also quite unique. Because if Mortarion doesn't have this, he could have that, and it makes them different. Rather than just going, Mortarion has -1 damage and a 5-up feel no pain. Let's give that to Magnus as well.
Yeah,
which wouldn't really make sense.
Right, it'd just be a copy of it. So here's a thought from Nexus. Maybe give him an ability like Techless, where he auto-casts a spell or two, or denies automatically once. Something like that.
Yeah, that'd be because Techless in Age of Sigmar, he like automatically casts powers on 12 sometimes, doesn't he? Which would be quite good for Magnus's Smite when it's like 2d6 damage rather than 1d6. So if he does keep that ability, you could be like, I'm going to automatically cast Smite on 12. Would you like to try and deny? And he's like, no. Which might be quite cool. That'd be a really cool ability for something like him.
I wonder if that's like a once per game thing, because it feels like it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, you won't be able to do it every turn.
Yeah.
I think the only way they'd let you do it every turn if it was like you automatically cast it at like 2 higher than what you need. So if it's like Warp Charge 5, it automatically casts on Warp Charge 7, for example. Because you could use the modifier on his table because he gets like a plus casting modifier.
Right.
You'd be like, you automatically cast it on whatever you need plus the modifier in the table. So as he takes wounds, it's not as strong, but still goes off.
And it's also greater distance too, isn't it? Because he's Thousand Suns.
Yeah, so currently it's +6 inches, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Interesting, though. It's an exciting time to be... If you haven't got a Codex already, I think it's the longer it goes on, the better, because the power scale only seems to be growing like infinitely. So as the longer you have to wait, the better your Codex is going to be, and probably more thought or more complex it is in a good way.
I fear the same thing happening though with Traitor Legions. How that was the very last book to come out, and it was a thing for like 6 months.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And then it got like taken out of the game.
So sad. I mean,
the way they do that is really bad. They did it with Psychic Awakening this time around.
Yeah, true.
Obviously, like things happen that they can't control, but I think they need a longer grace period between editions, where they're like, this is the edition, well, this is our grace period now, and we'll just play this for a few months. Then we'll start talking about the next one.
Can you imagine if they altered their business strategy to accommodate the habits and likings of the players, as opposed to making money from the sale of the miniatures?
No.
I wonder what would it look like? Like all armies upgrade at the exact same time. That would happen. All new codexes, boom, same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great. I think the thing that probably the flip side to that, playing devil's advocate, is like, I think you might see the game get stale at the same time, because if you think like, the thing is with codexes constantly coming out and like campaign books and new miniatures and all that, it keeps the game really fresh, because it's as we said, like Blood Angels are really good. They rely on damage too. And then Deathguard come out like a month later and they ruin that. They completely throw off your battle plan. But if you can come up with, if everyone's at the same level, you can come up with the perfect battle plan, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then if there's no codexes for a long time, then you have that battle plan, and it might get stale. So I think there's like pros and cons to both sides of it. I think I'd rather more codexes come out fast rather than all of them at the same time.
That's kind of like what they're doing now.
For those few months,
is that not what they're doing?
Yeah, for those few months when the codexes are out, that would be really good. Be really good for the player. But
right.
I just don't know how long that would last.
Because, I mean, with their release schedule, it's robust. I mean, they're fast. It feels like, especially considering like how it was 10 years ago, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I started playing properly like 5th edition, so
Okay.
like a codex used to come out once every 3 months.
Yep.
And now, yeah, it is crazy fast comparatively. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to balance the whole get everyone up to speed, but also let's not drop every codex at the same time so people buy them all.
Yep.
Which is perfect business planning, you know. But it is fast. Like even for like probably me and yourself who do this like full time and all, our job is to read codexes and stuff. And even now, it still feels like it's just like one after another. You've digested one. It's like right time to digest this one. It's crazy. It's crazy good. Good for the game, but yeah, it's fast.
You know, that's interesting because I've heard that a lot. I've heard people say, "Oh man, I wish I did it differently. I wish," but the thing is, the way that they do it has created the largest miniature war game on the planet. And
well, yeah, exactly. We can always say like we would do it this way, but it's obviously working.
It's working. It's obviously working, right? We still buy the minis. We still play the game. And as much as like we have gripes about certain things, ultimately at the end of the day, we play this game that we really enjoy. So would we want it different? Would we actually want it different? Because as you said, it would lose the excitement, right? Like, exactly. There's nothing new that came out in a year. How come they haven't come out with anything in a year? We would get what we want, and then we complain instantly.
Yeah, exactly. That's human nature, I think.
Yeah,
it's human nature to be never satisfied. So
the armor is greener. That new Deathguard.
Yeah,
exactly. So as a here's a question, because you're a competitive player. So as a competitive player, how do you feel about the power creep in the new codexes that are coming out? Do you think that's like, oh man, now I gotta start this new army because it's now the strongest thing, or do you just use what you have that's existing and kind of rework it? Like, how do you? What's your plan there? What's your?
So my personal battle plan is like I'm a competitive player, but I'm not like a world class player. You know, I enjoy competitive play because I enjoy competition. I always say in Warhammer, there's a winner and a loser, and that's just how the game is. It's just so I enjoy the like trying to thrive and trying to like overcome impossible odds because that's what I like. But I do like to do that with I don't tend to like go out and buy the latest army because it's strong. I'll try and learn that army and then use my army against it because I mostly play Space Marines, and Space Marines were the first army that I actually started playing because Dawn of War, the video game, was actually what got me into Warhammer. So I have a massive Blood Ravens army. I see you were like giving one away yesterday as well, weren't you? That was fantastic. I enjoyed
yes.
So basically, like obviously you have like the worldwide rankings with like ITC and stuff like that, and you have the thing called Best in Faction, which is basically you earn points from every event you go to, but you can win awards for a certain army if you've performed the best with that army. And I was trying to get the best Space Marine player when they had their first 8th edition codex when they weren't actually that good. But that was kind of like fine-tuning and chiseling a book which wasn't very good to try and beat lists which were good, if that made sense. And that's what I kind of enjoy. I like being the underdog rather than going out and buying the latest thing. I'll learn about the latest thing, but I don't like to buy it. It also gets expensive, so there's like two things with it.
This is
as you say, Codex has come out that fast. If you want to buy every new army that's good, I've already bought a Deathguard army. I'm probably gonna have to buy a Dark Angels army now, from the sounds of it. But yeah, so I like to try and be the underdog and wait for the Codex and then be really brokered for a few months and then get nerfed and then try and do it again.
That to me, that sounds like loyalty. That's loyalty to an army.
Yeah,
I mean that's what I experienced with World Eaters because I continue to play them, no matter what edition they're in, no matter how strong they are. I continue to play them. It doesn't really all that stuff is secondary because the first thing is the feeling that I get when I play the army, which is the maximum enjoyment of for some reason those Khorne Berserkers
they just say something to you.
They just say something to me. They
whisper sweet nothings in your ear.
They scream blood loud enough for me to hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the best, right? Like, okay, so I have this thing where my favorite instance in a game is when Khorne Berserkers charge and they get to demolish something in close combat. If that happens, I don't care if I win or lose. I've enjoyed myself. Is there something like that for you that happens? What would you say is your equivalent?
It's usually it does, because I changed the army composition a lot, because there isn't, with Space Marines, there isn't really like, especially because they bring out releases so fast, there isn't like a super iconic unit for them. Like everyone's iconic, but like when like making charges from like deep strike and stuff is usually it's very similar. Like Space Marines are good at doing everything, but when they do like something really well, like combat, it's really fun to see them just like obliterate something. But also just being really resilient as well, because I say Space Marines with the 2 wounds and stuff like that, they are quite resilient. So when someone pumps the roll into something, it's just still stood there, just like taking it all on. It's just really funny to watch.
So, when you say that, it reminds me of Blood Angels in their +1 to, so they're red thirst, so they're charging on an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And if you if you put a chaplain nearby, then it's even less, right?
Yeah, it goes down to 7 if you got a chaplain there.
It's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's fun too, man. I would have to say my second favorite is Death Company doing that, because the satisfaction of the, how many attacks?
Basically the same.
You get like 7 attacks or something with chainswords.
With a chainsaw, it's about 7 attacks, I think, whilst doing the assault doctrine.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Oh man, like nothing better.
Nothing better than rolling a bunch of dice. I think it doesn't matter what's happening. If you get to roll a handful of dice, it's great.
I think the maximum is when the opponent, like the maximum enjoyment is when the opponent says, "I'll just remove the models." Right? Because you're like, I mean, there is that enjoyment of rolling like the 80 dice, but still, when they say that, you're like, okay, all right. I mean, obviously they can't survive that unless you're Mortarion. But you
could have said that after I like counted out 60 of these 80 dice, but
but it's actually, there's even another strange feeling when you do roll all those dice, and they somehow make like just enough where you barely kill them. It's like, if I would have saved one more, the one guy would have survived out of all those dice. Yeah. Like, that's insane when that happens. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. That's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter like what list you bring. It's a dice game at the end of the day, so anything can happen, which is great and also frustrating.
Yeah. It's like, it's such an emotional roller coaster, the gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do we care so much about this? We're grown men.
I don't know. I think it's just the thrill of the dice is what does it for me.
Yeah.
It's like when you just roll stupid hot and it's like, oh my god, and then you just roll stupid bad. Like I streamed a game on Saturday for the part of the Las Vegas Open, which you might have seen, and like I brought out 3 Eradicators, which are obviously like infamous in the game of Warhammer at the minute, and I shot a Rhino and I did like 1 wound, and it was a Sisters of Battle Rhino, and they have an invulnerable, and he made a 6 up, and I was just like, what's going on?
The Shield
in
of
any
Fate.
Other game.
Yeah,
any other game, like Eradicators would blow up like 3 rhinos in 1 shot,
Was that 1 unit of 3? Was it 1 unit of 3?
Pardon?
Was it 1 unit of 3 or 3 units of Eradicators?
It was 1 unit of 3.
Yeah, and you shot twice because you didn't shoot anything else?
Obviously they shot twice.
And they still made all the saves.
Yeah,
that's
and
nuts.
It just made only 1 wound went through, and then he made his save.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that you remember.
Yes. Yeah, because it's like, that shouldn't have happened. That's what I love too. When people compare math to the dice game, is hilarious to me. It's like, statistically, that shouldn't have happened. I should have got 2 wounds there. That Rhino should have been destroyed. But no,
that's the thing with probability. Sometimes it probably doesn't happen.
When does it actually happen? Like when you roll 80 dice, maybe, because there's just so many dice and it's bound to be close to the probability. I think that's really the only time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's fun. I like to do Math Hammer, but like, it's just like you have to remember sometimes it's just dice. You can lose games because you only roll 1s, and there will be one game one day somewhere in the world there someone only rolls 1s and rolls nothing else in that game, and that's the fun of Math Hammer.
So there's so I have a couple buddies. One, Doug, he's the creator of the Fat Mats. He likes to say this, which is hilarious because it's wrong and it's right. He says it's 50-50. You either make the roll or you don't.
It is 50-50.
It's 50-50. It happens or it doesn't, right? So that's hilariously wrong, but very accurate. And then Scary from Scarredcast, he's got, I like his attitude towards it, because he says, well, dice are dice. So if the dice are bad right now, they're going to come back around. They'll eventually roll what you want them to, because eventually the numbers come back around with the dice.
Yeah.
Which in the campaign that I played against them, that happened every game. Every game.
Nice.
For both of us. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're bad, right? And he maintains this positive attitude throughout the game, whether he's like being crushed at the beginning of it or he's crushing at the beginning of it. It's like, well, it's not going to be this way forever. It'll change. Yeah.
I don't know. We could talk about maths and probability like all day, but I do think there's like a thing where like if you're negative about your dice, they will roll worse. And that's like minor superstition. It's like if you are really positive, like I'm going to roll a 6, you're more likely to roll the 6 than you are a 1, and then it's just one of those things. I think probably again you probably remember it more because you said it and then did it. But
true.
Yeah, like if you're really like negative, like I'm probably not going to make this 3-inch charge, and then you roll it, and then you probably more. I feel like you're more likely to roll the double 1 because you didn't believe in the dice. So, but again, that's the fun. That's the fun of Warhammer.
I'm going to log back in here. We're going to do a Chaos Comet Bomb soon.
Okay.
And let's see if that gets us back in here. Okay, here we go. So, for those of us who don't know what a Chaos Comet Bomb is, I'm going to grab YouTube video. I'll post the link in the chat so that you can click on that link. It'll bring you to the YouTube video, and you leave a comment on the video. And the comment could be something like, Dave and Mikey say hi from the Shrine of Chaos. Or you could say, collect Nurgle because Mortarian's awesome. Or maybe the Eye of Terror sees. Whatever you say, just as long as they know they've been Chaos Comet Bombed, is the most important thing. So I'm going to post
I was a lucky receiver of a Chaos Comet Bomb. I think it was like 2 years ago now or something, which is very fun. So,
and this is the paying it forward because it is with you guys that this is possible. So without you guys, we would not be doing this. So this particular YouTube channel is Alex Attempts Tabletop. His video that we are Chaos Comet Bombing currently has 250 views on it and 8 comments. It started at 8 comments because Khorne wanted it, and we are now Chaos Comet Bombing it. And and I'm gonna leave a comment here. The Eye of Terror sees you. And it's just fun. And I hope. Now, do you know him personally?
I don't know him personally. I think I dropped onto his channel once because I was browsing Twitch painters a couple of years ago, and then I watched one of his videos, and I just found him overly hilarious. But I think he's just because he's so awkward, he's hilarious, and I don't mean that in any disrespect. I think he's great. But yeah, I don't know him personally. I just think his videos are funny.
Hey, that's a great reason to want to Chaos Comet Bomb somebody.
Yeah,
you'll like their videos. And okay,
he seems like a good dude. He deserves it.
I like doing the channels that, because he has 460 subscribers, right? I like doing the smaller channels because a lot of times they have the notifications turned on, and so it's like their phone explodes. That's
exactly. They're more. I feel like they're more deserving because they'll feel it more compared to a larger channel.
Feels like they would feel it more, which I think is true.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much for participating in that. Okay, and Q&A from Mikey. Anything you want to know about Hellstorm Wargaming? Anything you want to know about armies, about tactics, about competitiveness? Anything you want to know about being a YouTuber? Anything you want to know about the LV Nopen? Leave your comments, and I'll do my best to relay them to Mikey.
Yeah, fire away, boys, if you can. Be good.
In the meantime, you look like a Viking. Do you play Space Wolves?
I do not play Space Wolves, no. No, I pretty much Space Marines. It's just Blood Ravens, but then I tend to use them at whatever chapter is good that week. So recently, Blood Angels, when they were their own codex, I would leave them be, But now they're in the Space Marines codex, kind of. I feel like it's fair game.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have their own. I mean, I haven't actually played with them, so I'm not familiar with. Is it Forge World they gave them rules? Like, how do they even have rules?
It was so weird. I'll give you do you want the full history of the Blood Ravens rules?
Let's have the history. Yes.
When I first started playing, obviously I started playing Blood Ravens, and when in the chapter selection in the 5th edition codex, it was like, if you don't have a known chapter like Blood Raven, choose one that most suits your playstyle.
Right.
I was like, okay, so choose anything. And then that was pretty much the same in until the 8th edition codex, the first one. And then the second one came out and they released a White Dwarf, which had rules in there. I think it was just before the newest 8th edition codex. So obviously there's a 9th edition codex now, so one before. And it was like, essentially, it was like, use these rules if you want to. These are optional rules for the Blood Raven. So I was like, okay. But the rules were basically the successor tactics, just 2 of them that chosen out of the new codex, and then a relic from the new codex, and a stratagem from Faith and Fury supplement, where you get like the Chief of Librarian and stuff. So in this White Dwarf, they just had rules from there, but before the codex was out. And then when the codex came out, they released an FAQ saying, don't use the White Dwarf, just use the codex. and then in the codex it said again, if you don't have a known chapter, use anything. And then Forge World came out and they were like, okay, we're going to release rules for Blood Ravens, and it was like, we suggest to use them as Ultramarines, but you can use them as anything you like. Okay. Which is the weirdest rule I've ever had. It's because it's like the same for every Forge World chapter in that book. It's like, we recommend or we suggest.
Yeah.
There's no like, these are the rules.
Right.
Which is so bizarre.
So, okay. Right now, what's the latest incarnation? How do you play them as?
I'm playing them as Blood Angels at the minute.
Okay, because the latest thing is play them however you see they should be played?
Yeah. It says, we recommend Ultramarines, but you can use them as anything, basically.
Okay, that's the latest.
Words.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very bizarre. It's like weirdest rule set ever.
Yeah, I'd play them as Blood Angels. That makes sense.
Yeah, why not? It's got blood in the name. Blood Rangels, I call them.
Blood Rangels.
Or religious birds.
The religious birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the cool thing is a campaign could be made about like the video game storyline would be kind of cool.
Yeah, so I've been recently reading the Crusade rules because I said I wanted to like play some Crusade stuff, and I've like got some plans in mind for essentially Dawn of War Dark Crusade, because that was the video game supplement, well, the expansion to the first one, which is the one I played the most. So I was going to call it the Dark Crusade, and then make a narrative campaign about it as my first proper thought. Because I enjoy the lore and I enjoy the narrative. I just play more competitive games. But like I wanted to dip my toe into like narrative style storytelling in battle reports and stuff like that, because that's like our main focus. Like we struggle right now because of worldwide events, let's call it. So I've like shifted some of my content to more like sitting in front of the camera and talking about rules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like my love and passion is creating battle reports and creating videos like in that fashion. So I'd like to go back to that when we can, and then create like a cool narrative campaign, which is Blood Ravens, Orcs, and Alpha Legion, which would be really cool.
That's very cool. I like all of those armies.
Yeah, and they're the 3 armies from the first Dawn of War. So
yeah,
which I recently played through again. I actually live streamed it on Twitch. I think I played through the first campaign, which I don't think I've done in about 5 years or something. It was so much fun. So laggy because it's such an old game, but so much fun.
Very fun, yes. I remember playing it and thinking it was super cool, and then I was thinking, man, they got really cool buildings. I want to make those into buildings, terrain pieces on the tabletop. And so I did that for a few of them. And then Deathray Designs came out with a design very much inspired by the game, and like, man, that's super cool with the laser cut terrain. It just like brings it to life.
I saw those. I really wanted them, but obviously because I'm based in the UK, shipping is like super high. So it's like real like it's going to be quite an investment if I want to go that route. But I have like I have a 3D printer, so I was thinking about 3D printing some similar stuff and designing it myself and kind of doing it similar. So
yeah, you have a 3D printer?
I actually have multiple, but yeah, plastic and resin. So
what's your current project for that?
3D printing terrain. So the Las Vegas Open, I like 3D printed these buildings. They're very basic because I quickly rattle sprayed them, but these are based on the World Team Championships type buildings. So I 3D printed these in plastic for a table. So I'm planning on doing a few more of those.
Cool.
So I can have like different designs and stuff like that. But in terms of like resin printing, which is like more like for more detailed miniatures and stuff. I actually printed something this morning, which is based on the Wall Street Bets thing, the mascot from there. If you've seen much about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly grab him if you want.
Yes, let's see. Let us see. Let us see this this eye candy that Mikey has for us. I gotta say, I like his LEDs there in the back.
So this is a fan design. Well, there you go. It says stonks on the bottom, which I thought was great. So I printed that.
How long for that print? How long did it take?
That one that took about 4 hours, I think.
Okay, it's not too bad.
Whereas the building took 24 hours.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Was that multiple
plastic
pieces?
Printing. Yeah. Plastic printing and resin printing are very different processes, but plastic's really slow, but it's a lot cheaper, whereas resin's really fast, but it's a lot more expensive to the stuff that you use is more expensive. So
was the terrain in one piece or multiple pieces?
Multiple pieces, so it's like you've got like basically that's one section here, and then that's another section, then the floor pieces are separate as well.
Oh, okay.
So in total, it's a 24-hour print, that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so printing stuff like that, that's kind of like what I bought it for. It was like to just expand like cool terrain pieces that you can't buy off the shelf, and stuff like that's really handy for like competitive play. So
yes, yeah. Have you seen this this recent Kickstarter where they had it's basically pop-up terrain, where I forget the name of the company, but they look like, and they were very successful with the camp. I'm not sure if it's still going or if you can like get it if the campaign's over. But I remember when I saw it, I'm like, dang, that is a very slick, efficient way of setting up a table and tearing it down and storing it.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, because it stores in like a board game box essentially, doesn't it? 'Cause I saw that they were doing like loads of pre-production like show off and feedback things on Reddit.
Yep.
So I saw it then and I was really impressed with it. So yeah, it's like a pop-up book. It's really cool. So shout out to them. They've got like 4 designs now, which is really good as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing that kind of floods the market, and everyone has that and kind of uses it from time to time. Because I think with that, it adds to the repertoire of terrain, because there's certain terrain types that, it's cool to use it, it's efficient to use it, but you like variety with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the ruins. Yeah. The ruins are awesome. 3D print ruins are awesome, but would you want it for every single game? Not for every single game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you like filming and stuff, you've got to try and keep it varied all the time. It's like the hardest thing is trying to make it interesting whilst also keeping it fair and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like limited on what you've got. So yeah, like having a variety is like really key. Really, really key.
Do you so you're filming everything out of your home studio?
Yeah, so this is actually my dining room.
Oh, fantastic. Is it, I mean, I'm assuming you keep it set up because you got all those things stored there, and so that's your dining room is your studio, which is a fantastic use of a dining room, I must say.
Hell yeah. Maybe one day I'll be able to get like a separate studio from my house. The hardest thing is like when you're sat in the front room. It's like my house is like a dining room and a living room attached to it. So there's like an alcove here. So my living room is just there. So there's like you can never escape the Warhammer in the front room, which is fun. Fun for me anyway. My girlfriend might say otherwise, but yeah, it's great for me.
It pays for the LEDs that are on right now.
It certainly does. Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah.
So, okay, so if you could have any one thing, if you were the CEO of Games Workshop, what would be the first order of business?
So, obviously, we've just spoken about terrain. It would be more varied terrain. There's loads of Imperial terrain, right? There's loads of buildings and loads of cities. But Necron terrain, man, I need, like, plastic Necron terrain that I can buy off the shelf. So... if I want to do the Dark Crusade campaign, I need cool Necron terrain. Because that'll come into it eventually.
So, okay, you mean like Games Workshop proper terrain, not independent companies also making their, I'll call it Necron terrain, because they don't call it Necron terrain, but they're
for sure.
Have you seen any of that stuff?
I've seen a lot of that around, yeah, especially like MDF and stuff like that, because that's like the cheapest way to produce something these days for terrain is MDF. And it's like really convenient because you can flat pack it and it ships really easy. But it just seems like a missing market in Games Workshop's like, collection. They sell everything that you could want, but they don't sell something as basic as non-Imperial terrain.
So I've wondered this
too.
They do
a bit, 1 or 2 bits, but like overall, it's pretty much what it's bombed out cities where you fight.
So I've been curious about that too in the past, about why they don't sell certain things, like airbrushes, for example. Do they sell airbrushes?
They don't.
They
I think they
don't.
did like a spray gun once upon a time, if you remember, that looked like a flamer,
Yeah.
which is really bad.
Okay.
But then even they've made videos about airbrushing because I think they got that independent painting studio to make videos for their channel about airbrushing.
Right.
And they sell airbrush ready paints, but they don't sell airbrushes.
Right.
Just
so why?
I don't know. It's just, again, they just don't like money.
They don't like money.
Clearly, they're making too much of like, oh, please, no, not anymore.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't know anything. But if I were to wager a guess, my guess would be this, because it makes sense in my mind. My guess would be they're good at making miniatures and selling miniatures. Mm-hmm. They know they have a formula, it works, they have numbers to back it up, and they know it's a sure thing. Anything new they try is experimental and it's a risk. So they're like, okay, we have $1 million to put towards this new line of miniatures, which we historically have sold this way. Whereas we have this new product that we can sell. There's no data to back it up. Which do we choose? We're going to go with the thing that probably, like, if that's the answer, I can accept that as the answer. If it's not the answer, if it's just the person in charge making the decision to sell whatever product is just not interested in airbrushes, then I don't know.
Yeah.
So
the other thing, I guess, as well, it's because they've left that market gap. They're entering a highly competitive zone of the market. Because, like, if you think about airbrushes, there's so many companies, named brands or unnamed brands, that are selling those type of things.
True.
Whereas Games Workshop just don't. Like, they have the miniatures nailed down, where they are arguably, and probably, like, quite rightly, the best miniature producers on the market. They make some of the best miniatures out there. Mm-hmm. And they are probably the most well-known brand in wargaming. Mm-hmm. Obviously 40k probably being the biggest game on there. Mm-hmm. So when you do think, like, why don't they make airbrushes and why don't they make this and why don't they make that? It's probably because they see that there is a competition there already and they're like, well, we can just keep making miniatures because that makes bank and then we don't need to take any risks. So yeah, maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, like I can accept that as a reason if that is the reason, you know?
I think that's probably the most logical. And if it's not that, then
then I have no clue.
Like money.
Yeah, they don't like money. That's
no idea.
That's the default reason. Yeah. So, thank you for your time, Mikey. Appreciate your discussion here. Check out Hellstorm Wargaming and it's Hellstorm Wargaming, not Hellstorm Gaming, because people have called it Hellstorm Gaming, which is only like 3/4 true. It's Hellstorm Wargaming.
I don't know why they just miss war out of it all the time. It's very fun.
You can support his channel by subscribing to his YouTube channel, or by signing up to the what's it called? What's the special name for it?
The Small Board Gang. # Small Board Gang.
The Small Board Gang. That's right. So that's on YouTube. Actually, there's the YouTube membership that you could support the channel, and I've provided links to both of those in this post. So if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch or on Facebook, then you'll see those there. And in the very least, check out his videos. And
thank you, man.
Thanks for your thoughts, man.
Stay tuned. Thank you for having me on. It's been really fun.
Stay tuned next week, everybody. 1 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of the Shrine of Chaos.